Okay, let's get started here. This is a 10 o'clock scholar. That don't mean I come on at 10 o'clock. That's just a title I'm using for the moment. It is very positive because 10 o'clock scholars are very rare. It is not what they told me it was. When they named me that in school, it had a negative connotation. But I embrace it now because I have found the positive connotation. So I claim that title, 10 o'clock scholar, with gusto. Okay, we got the teacher here teaching the student. I am a student and I'm a teacher. So let's learn something today. Let's see what the universe is going to teach us. You know, I studied the English language in school. I wasn't very good in it, but eventually I learned it. I'm learning it because it's a difficult language. To express truth, it's a difficult language. To hide truth, let me say this so you can understand me. It's the best language to use if you want to hide truth. English is the best language to use to avoid revealing the truth. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How these subtleties in the English language have the truth right in your face, but you can't see it because you think the word means something else. And they change the meaning all the time. So you really have to be on point to know exactly what this word means, what it connotates. So that's what we're going to talk about. This is going to be a long lecture. We're going to be about 20 minutes. No, less than 20 minutes here. So if you want to really learn the subtleties of English, get you something to drink, get relaxed, turn your notification off, because you're going to enjoy this. And it's best if you can get this live, because that way you can get on the energy of the live program, and you may even get to ask your question. Just think that I can get to answer your question in the chat, and thereby answer lots of other people's questions. Oh man, this y'all lighten up. Y'all lighten this up. Thank you. People say they like my live. Thank you. Yeah, it is a medieval picture. Look at the writings over the picture. It's in Hebrew. Showing that's the language they were speaking during this time. So that's very, very, I won't say it's medieval. I say it's ancient. That's the word I use, ancient. And these ancient people, these are ancient people. Okay, let's get into it now. The people in here, they want me to get started with the topic. Why is the U.S. says war, there's many wars on something. The war is never against something. The many wars, this is subtleties of the English language. And when I say wars, W-A-R-S, they are not literally battlefield wars, but policy wars, meaning the U.S. government declares a campaign against a group, against behavior, against a condition, or an idea. Some of them were officially presidential declarations Other evolved into ongoing enforcement frameworks and never ended. Here are some of the major domestic wars that have been publicly declared or widely recognized. Here are some of the major domestic wars, WARS. Maybe you're not understanding me. I don't understand myself sometimes. What did he say? Here are some of the major domestic wars that have been publicly declared or widely recognized. The War on Poverty, 1964, still going on. War on Poverty. This was initiated by Lyndon B. Johnson and is still active through programs like SNAP, which is food stamps, Medicaid, Section 8 housing, Head Start. Yeah, all that comes from the War on Poverty, 1964, from Johnson up to the present time. And remember now, we said war on poverty. They didn't say war against poverty. So you're gonna find out later what the war on poverty really means. Next, we have the war on crime. This was in 1965. It began under LBJ as well, Lyndon Johnson. But it expanded widely under Nixon and Clinton. Yeah, they expanded this war on crime. We're going to talk about that word on. Lyndon Johnson, who really was a Southern Democrat, well, you call it Democrat today, and it began, it expanded it. Nixon, Nixon was a Republican. He expanded it. And Clinton, he expanded this war on crime. What did this war on crime do? It led to mass incarcerations, federally funding for police militarization, 3 strikes laws, and mandatory minimums. Okay. Number 3, the war on drugs, 1971. Still going on, present. This was declared by Richard Nixon. That's where the Drug Enforcement Authority was set up, the DEA, Federal Drug Sentence Framework. You know, we start getting people 5 years for an ounce of cocaine and marijuana, by the way, which were imported into America, because the people who's using the drugs didn't bring them into the country. And look at the situation now, where most states legalize marijuana, but have they released these people who are still incarcerated under these war on drugs? No. That shows you it's a war. It's not about drugs, it's about the people. Okay. I'm not through. There's others. War on terror. This started in 2001 to the present. This was declared after 9/11, the war on terror. Now, even though foreign operations get a lot of attention, domestically, it expanded surveillance under things like the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act expanded the war on terror. This is where you had the establishment of TSA, Transportation Authority, Homeland Security was created, the no-fly list, and digital monitoring. And you had a lot of counter-extremism policy within the U.S. borders. We're not finished. The war on homelessness. Now, we know people have a home, their body is their home. So let's say war against people who don't have shelter, people who've lost their homes, or can't afford to rent or buy a home. It's a war on them. Okay? Anybody follow me? Anybody got some questions? Something I'm talking about? Catch me right. If I see your question relating to what I'm talking about, I will answer it. That's why you're here. Okay? Now, these wars were more or less not formally declared, more like executive orders. And this war against people who didn't have shelter mean there was criminalizing people who slept outdoors, anti-camping and anti-loitering laws swept against tent communities, billions spent on enforcement rather than housing. Many policy analysts classify it as domestic war. Yeah, if they took the money that they were spending against this war and assisted the people to get housing, there'll be no people out there without shelter. But they'd rather spend more wars against the people. That's why they say the war on. It wasn't against. Note the difference now. We know what a war against something is. Now I'm showing you how this English language hide the truth in your face when they say war on. We got some more to go now. War on gangs. It's a war on the gangs. This began under, they call it the RICO, racketeering, what do you call it? Racketeering, RICO, what is it? Racketeering, criminal organization. Let's say it like that. And this came under, they put RICO under Expansion and Gang Task Force. They targeted youth groups labeled as gangs. And this is how they did it. They catch a youth, and the first thing they want to know what gang you with. What gang you with? That's the first question they ask him. He don't know what they're talking about because he's not part of a gang. He live in a community. So after so much police inferring that they had a gang, that's when the young people start calling themselves gangs because the police kept inferring that they were a part of a gang. Yeah, so they started a term. Gangs was started by the police, not by the people in the community. That was to criminalize the youth by being associated with the gang, G-A-N-G. Now, they target these young groups, these youth groups as gangs without any evidence. You part of a gang, you guilty. We don't need no evidence. So they were sentenced without a fair trial. The war on illiteracy is number 7. This started in 1983. The war on illiteracy. And this is because of the failure of education. They can go to war against the people who are not educated. You see that? And this was triggered by the Reagan era report. He had a report out, Reagan, called A Nation at Risk. And why was he called this report A Nation at Risk? Because the government had nothing to assist the youth. Remember now, this time they took out all the they call it trades from the schools. They used to have, you can go to high school and come out with a certified trade in something, electrician, plumber. They took all that out. Drugs were brought into the community. Forced integration. You're outside of your neighborhood. No jobs. You criminalize it with all these other wars, and then they're going to tell you the nation is at risk. Wow, what a head job. So this led to federal controls on education. This was standardized testing. Yeah, the government brought that on. And it had this, I don't know what you call it, no child left behind. Do you know what that really means? Okay, let me tell you briefly what that means. That means sometime if a child maybe started school late or for some reason missed a lot of school, he was left behind. He had to go repeat the grade. Yeah, he had to catch up. So with no child left behind, what is that saying? It said, we're not going to leave you behind. That can be a negative connotation, because if you're not going to leave them behind, what are you going to do with them? In other words, you're saying then we're not going to let them catch up, because the only way they can be catch up is being left behind to repeat their school year. But they're not going to do that. I want y'all to really understand what's being said here. I'm coming to the end now. A few more to go. Okay, now you had, with standardized testing, you had Common Core, funding, punishments for failing school districts. Yeah. If the school fails, if the school district fails, you won't get no government funding. This was directed to our community schools because they made sure we failed, because they did not fund us to begin with, or very limited. So that's just another way of closing up our community schools. And the idea of anytime you federalize something, you know they're targeting a certain group of people. Nixon was behind a lot of this. And then there's a few more. Let's get to these. War on obesity. Now, they're not saying they're going to help these people get to the proper weight. No, we're going to war against these people because they're overweight. We're going to war against them. They have government policies. This is where they say, okay, food regulations. You can't spend your food on certain things. The war on domestic extremism and misinformation. This began in 2020, after the January 6th events. And that's where you have social media monitoring, domestic intelligence expansion, and whatsoever. A couple more before we finish. War on domestic, war on hate crimes. War, that's about most of it. Okay, you got it? We're going to talk about this a little later. Thank y'all for coming by. I don't have time to answer questions right now.